Everybody, how are you doing today? It's very nice to have you here. And today I wanted to speak a little bit about tenderness and about its importance for awakening and about its importance really in our daily life and practice. Because there is no difference between our daily life and practice. So, what is tenderness really? Tenderness is really part of our natural stage. So that means when we are truly at rest here, right? And I'm not speaking just about momentarily experiences, which we all know, expansion and beautiful and presence. But I mean moment by moment by moment, when we are really here, tenderness is naturally here as well. Why is it difficult for us so often it's difficult for us to experience tenderness, and especially tenderness towards where we are at, tenderness towards our own experience. And tenderness is so key because without tenderness, we can't really be here. The patterns of the past, when they arise, when they show up, if we don't have the open heart, if we don't have the kindness, if we don't have the tenderness to really be here with it the way it is, we can't really ever fully address it, right? Or be present to it. So the patterns of the past are just going to subside and then arise again. Tenderness is the key. So why is it so difficult though? Why is it so difficult? That difficulty that we experience in regards to tenderness and our own experience is really part of our past. And when I say part of the past, I mean these are habits, these are behaviors, these are ways of being that we have learned. We have learned to substitute kindness. We have learned to substitute being or substitute tenderness for certain kinds of behaviors. We have learned that, this life, many other lifetimes, we have learned that individually, we have learned that collectively, right? Collectively, so often, no tenderness, right? No kindness with what is. And also, our biology, the mind, as you would notice, the mind wants to habitually move away from what's uncomfortable. And that is also our biology. That's how our biology, the biology of survival, it's set up. It is set up for us, to avoid avoid discomfort, right? Avoid what's uncomfortable. So there are many different elements at play. Why is it difficult to be here? And yet it's such a key because, if we can't be here, why, if you ask yourself sometimes, what is it that we need for awakening, and why is it that there is no awakening yet? Awakening is really a willingness to move beyond our reliance on the patterns of the past. And so one of those elements is really kindness, it's tenderness, a willingness to be present to what is. Because if we can't really be here, how can we trust? And without trust, there is no surrender. And without surrender, there is no ability to rest in presence. So often, we experience tenderness much easier when it relates to others. When it relates to, either when we are out in nature or when we interact with animals, when we interact with little children. And also relationally, you are much more likely to be tender and kind with others, with where they are at in their experience, rather than kind and tender towards what you are experiencing in a moment. And so, we can slowly learn to really apply or rest more in tenderness we can slowly learn to understand, and we have been speaking about that. The more we move away from the habitual wrongness, right? Something is wrong, something is fundamentally wrong with you or in your experience. When we move away from that, then we can slowly learn and become more present and kind and tender to what is, which really is the key, because nothing wants to open under pressure, right? We sometimes think judgment is going to help. We know it doesn't, right? No pattern of the past wants to, open or be, available under, judgment or pressure, right? Kindness, tenderness is the key. And often though, we also don't really have much of that kindness, tenderness experience. I often speak with you or with other students individually, and even though we understand kindness, we know what it is, we even experience it in certain areas, but we don't have it so deeply on file in our brain, in our nervous system experientially. We haven't gotten quite enough of that, especially in certain parts of our experience, in certain parts of our life. We haven't gotten enough of that to really know what it is like when we are here with kindness. What kind of experience is that? And that's why, I want to invite you to join me, because sometimes it is really important for us to just sit together in the experience of that. And not only to sit together in the experience of that, but also to investigate why and how, that is not present for you. And yet also to spend this time together when, which really happens every time we are together, when we can experience the tenderness and kindness more directly. So I want to invite you to join me in this upcoming 3-week program starting this Sunday, where I will be speaking more about tenderness. And of course, we'll be speaking about other things also, about the brain and the nervous system, about what really compassion is. There is a lot of misunderstanding about this also. How to really be present here, and about the importance of tenderness for awakening, and the meaning also of with tenderness to the very end. What does that mean? That ties really closely with surrender. So I want to invite you to join me. The program starts this coming Sunday, and I really hope to see you there.